So take a minute and think in your life of what your automatic responses are to some situations, so that when you hear certain kinds of words or certain situations occur, how automatically you respond in a certain emotional way and have a particular interpretation of what's going on, what the other person is doing, what it means to you, and so forth. To take a moment and identify maybe 2 or 3 of these such situations in your own life and your own behavior. And see how, when you have those automatic responses emotionally, how you aren't free. How we're trapped by those very familiar emotional and behavioral patterns. And then think of other ways to look at the situation to free your mind from that habituated response, to free yourself from habituated destructive actions. So how else could you see the situation so that you could respond to it differently? And then make a resolution to really put energy into changing your perspective so that you can free yourself from such automatic responses that take away your freedom. So is it becoming a bit clearer what being trapped by ignorance, anger, and attachment means? So, when we see this kind of thing, then we hear teachings and we see this in ourselves, then it can really deepen our refuge in the Triple Gem, because it becomes very clear that the Buddha really knew what he was talking about, that he wasn't talking nonsense when he described how our mind worked. And so that gives us more faith and confidence in following the teachings. Okay, so let's continue looking at the other 5. So the next one is, just as the movement of the bucket up and down the well is run by an operator, so the process of cyclic existence is run by an untamed mind, specifically through mistakenly believing that a self exists inherently, and then mistaking the nature of mind. So this is what is mentioned in the verse itself. Through initially exaggerating oneself, I, and then generating attachment for things. This is mine. Okay? So our lives, we're the bucket, we're going up and down in cyclic existence, controlled by an operator. Okay? And that operator is what we call self-grasping ignorance, the ignorance that grasps at inherent existence. In other words, it grasps at things having an essence which make them what they are. Last night when we were talking about dependent arising and how when things are dependent, it helps us see that they don't have something inside of them that makes them what they are. Yeah. So it's that feeling that they have something inside that makes them what they are. That is the grasping at inherent existence. So there's the grasping at phenomena in general, especially our body and mind, and then grasping at the person, the I, and the mind. Okay. So it said that the grasping at the person, the I and the mind, is probably the most serious. Both of them are quite serious, but the most serious because based on thinking that there's a real me here, then we get attached to me, we get attached to our own happiness, we get attached to what we think brings us happiness. We develop aversion and antipathy for everything that interferes with our happiness. And then through that, we create a lot of destructive karma, okay, which ripens in our continued rebirth in cyclic existence. Okay, so it's that unsubdued mind, that untamed mind that really thinks that is based on misapprehending how things exist. Okay, we not only impute snake on a rope, but we believe the rope is a snake. Okay, so we not only impute, person on the aggregates, which is okay to do, but we think that there's a real person somewhere in the body and mind. And that's what creates so many problems for us. Because based on that, then everything that happens to me becomes so important. And our whole life begins to revolve around protecting the self and defending the self. Yeah. And so then, of course, we devise all these ways to try and distance ourselves from anything that feels harmful. We devise all these ways to get what we think is helpful. We get into all sorts of conflicts with other people and with the environment around us as we try and do this, and that just keeps us going around in the cycle of existence again and again and again, which we've been doing since beginningless time. So basically, what we've been doing to try and get happiness has actually backfired. And it's brought more problems to us. Yeah. And yet we don't seem to realize the mistake that it's the base, that is at the base of this. And that's why we call that mistake ignorance. Because we're ignorant of the way things exist, and then we're ignorant that we're ignorant. Yeah. Because we think we're pretty smart people. I mean, we have computers, and we know how to drive cars, and we know how to do we can put a person on the moon. So, we're very smart human beings. Except we don't know how to manage our lives very well. Yeah. So that's our problem. And we're even more stupid because we won't acknowledge that we can't manage our lives very well. Yeah. So I think it's often the person who, can admit their mistake, the person who can admit their ignorance, that person is the wise person. Yeah, whereas the person who's saying, I'm okay, everything's okay, it's the world's fault, that person's really the ignorant one. Yeah, and very difficult to get through to those people. And those people are us. Yeah. Yeah. Grasping inherent existence, I don't do that. Attachment's good. Anger's good. It lets me know something's wrong. Yeah, if I'm not angry, other people will take advantage of me. They will make me do all sorts of things I don't want. They will manipulate me. They will interfere with my happiness. My anger is my protection. It gets other people off my back and away from me, and so they leave me alone. Yeah, then I can lock myself in a room and be alone and feel safe and lonely. Yeah. What to do? This is where our ignorance leads us. Okay? So we believe that there's the self, the I exists inherently, and so does the mind. So last night we talked also about, when we call something mine or call something my, what happens? And how poisonous that is, because we think that there's something really in that object or that person that is mine. Yeah. And I think some of the things just, let me ask you this. Yeah. Of all the people in your life, which people do you think, or maybe let me ask it this way, in general, when you look at all society, who do you think people are most attached to? Themselves. So that's grasping at the I. And then the my, who is the one that you're most attached to when you look around? My family, my spouse. Within your family, children. Isn't it? Yeah. Children more than spouse. Yeah, more than spouse. And this incredible grasping, because that child is mine. But what makes that child yours? Or if you don't have kids and you're attached to a spouse, what makes that spouse yours? Or if you don't have kids and a spouse and you're attached to your siblings or your parents or your friends, what makes those siblings and parents and friends yours? Is there something inside of them? You cut them open and it says, this belongs to me. This person is my property. Yeah? What makes that person ours? Yeah. Now you might say genes, but do you really feel that genes are what makes somebody else yours? I mean, genes are just chemical configurations. Yeah? Do you feel the genes are what connects you to somebody else? No. Because also they could switch babies in the hospital and you would be just as attached to the baby you got that wasn't your baby. Yeah? So what makes that person mine?
What I feel, can you hear me? What I feel about my children is just the, I want to say burden, but that's not what I mean, of responsibility to taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes overwhelming, the amount of responsibility I feel for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's what makes them mine or not, but that's what I feel.
Yeah. A tremendous responsibility. Yeah, let's hear from a mom over here.
Venerable, you asked me this question some time ago, and I've been pondering that ever since. It's been very helpful. And what I have reasoned in terms of that is that I gave her a body, and the mind that she has is basically her own mental continuum.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so if anything, all I have a claim to is the body. But the body came from this body, which was given to me by my parents, which they got from their parents. So really, if I don't have a claim to the body or the mind, then what is it that I have a claim to? And the other thing is that when I go buy a car, let's say, or a house, I pay for it. The plastic thing, I give the plastic thing, and I get it back. So I get to call that item mine. This item I didn't purchase.
Yeah, but it's very expensive.
Very expensive, yes, very expensive. They didn't give me my plastic back, so on that one. So, yeah, it does point to the fact that there is another mechanism there imputing mind onto it, which is nothing to do with the body or the mind, or where that person actually came from.
Mm-hmm.
And so all I can point to really, it has to do with the taking care of, raising, being feeling responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
Just that familiarity over the years is
Mm-hmm.
what I kind of where I am at with the reasoning of why
Mm-hmm.
it's mine.
Okay, so this will be the last comment on this topic.
Yeah, the topic came up in our discussion group about psychologists using the exact same word for a different, when an infant becomes attached to the mother.
Yes,
and that's a necessary part of
right.
infant development.
Right.
So can you sort of compare and contrast what the difference between that use of the word is and what we're talking about here.
Okay. So an infant attaching to the mother is kind of something that is a natural process and necessary for the infant feeling secure, because the infant has self-grasping. And so that ability to depend on the mother, or it could be the father, whoever else it is, doesn't have to be the mother, okay, gives the infant the sense of some kind of predictability in their life. Yeah. And that provides comfort. Yeah. And that having that when you're little enables you to grow up with a little bit more, they say, kind of confidence or security. Although, I must say, I know people who have had that kind of care as infants who are very insecure as adults, and people who didn't have that kind of care as infants and who function quite well as adults. So, I don't know. I don't think you could say it's 100% across the board. Yeah, it depends on the individual. Whereas the attachment for another person that we're talking about is this thing of, this feeling like this person has happiness inside of them and I need to be with them to be happy. There's some force that is making this person special in my life such that I don't want to be separated from them. Yeah, and so it becomes a very strong this. Okay. So that's kind of the difference between, because the word attachment means one thing in psychology and another thing in Buddhism. Okay. But it's interesting to ask, what makes something mine? Yeah. And if it's not a child, even our own body, what makes our body mine? Okay. So this doesn't mean that we say, well, nothing's mine, so I don't have responsibility for anything. If you have kids, yes, you have a responsibility for those kids. Yeah. But it's this thing that's the problem. The responsibility, to raise a child is one thing, but it's that becomes the difficulty. Okay. So that's what makes the bucket go up and down. Yeah? They usually say, what was that song? Love makes the world go round, and its attachment makes samsara go round. Yeah, craving makes samsara go round. Okay, number 3, just as the bucket travels up and down the well over and over again, so sentient beings ceaselessly wander in the great well of cyclic existence, from the uppermost states of temporary happiness to the lowest states of temporary pain. Okay, so powered by this operator, this grasping at I and mine as being inherently existent, and creating karma due to that, then the rebirth process occurs in cyclic existence. What rebirth in cyclic existence means is that in almost all the realms, we get reborn with the mental aggregates in all of the realms, but we're only there temporarily. And in most of the realms, we get born with a body. Yeah, and especially in our particular realm, called the desire realm, with this flesh and blood body. Yeah, once you get this kind of body, then there's all sorts of things that are for sure going to happen. Okay? Once you get a body that's taken under the control of afflictions and karma, for sure it's going to get sick. Not our favorite thing. For sure it's going to get old. also not our favorite thing. And for sure, it's going to die, which is definitely not our favorite thing. Okay, but once we take a body under the influence of karma and afflictions, these three will necessarily happen unless there's two things. We die the moment after we're conceived, or two, we attain liberation. Okay? So the bodies we take, are influenced by the actions we create. And there's like these different realms of existence with different kinds of bodies. And some bodies suffer an incredible amount physically, and others suffer less physically. Okay, but all those bodies are temporary. We are born into them as long as the karmic energy is to stay in them. And when that karmic energy is finished, we die from that body. And then grasping another body, we take another life. Okay, there's one realm where you don't take a physical body like this. It's called the formless realm. But those beings are completely spaced out in their meditative equipoise, and they're really difficult to get through too. Okay, because they're just, completely immersed in their single-pointed concentration. But their their rebirth in those formless realms, that also comes to an end. And, those realms are seen as high because they don't have a lot of physical suffering in them. But once you die from that realm, it's like being at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Where do you go? The only direction to go is down. Okay, so those beings go to a lower kind of rebirth after that. Okay, so since beginningless time, under the influence of afflictions and anger, we've been going up and down in this well of cyclic existence, taking a good birth, taking a bad birth, having happiness, having suffering, being famous, being infamous, having love, being scorned, having praise and reputation, being oppressed, up and down, up and down, up and down, beginninglessly. Yeah, because there's no origin to samsara. Yeah, it's totally different than Christianity. Christianity, everything was kind of okay until that apple happened, and then since that apple, then everything's been downhill. In Buddhism, no, there was never the paradise, and then we became ignorant. It's just that one moment of ignorance comes from the preceding moment, And since in Buddhism there was no creator of the universe and no creator of persons, it just keeps going back infinitely. Okay? So when you really think about this deeply, if you have some deep kind of feeling for rebirth, and again being born under the control of ignorance and karma, and getting born and old and sick and die, and born and old and sick and die, and then being famous and infamous, and having happiness and suffering, and being up in the world, having status and then losing it all. And when you really think of that kind of stuff going on beginninglessly, it's very scary. Yeah, it's very scary because unless we do something, it's going to keep going. It's like a roller coaster that has an off button, but we don't press the off button. Yeah. So the roller coaster keeps going. Have you ever been on the Matterhorn in Disneyland? Yeah, I was on it, I don't know how many decades ago, so they probably made it even more scary. But I remember, you know? And like kind of right when the roller coaster seems to, on a flat thing and yeah, I was like, what's going on here? Yeah, remember that? And we call that fun. Yeah, being scared out of our mind and screaming, we call fun. Okay? So it's kind of like that, and we're on this roller coaster of our own making. And we don't think of getting off the roller coaster. We don't think of finding the stop button. Yeah. Instead, we try and make our seats in the roller coaster more comfortable. Yeah. So in those, even places like, well, I want a seat that, navy blue is my favorite color. I want a nice seat that's very comfortable, and I want to be sitting next to this person and that person. And then all of a sudden, as you're getting your comfortable seat and arranging where you sit, boom! And your seat flies off, and you're hanging onto that roller coaster like this. Okay? So, that's the third one. Fourth one. Just as it takes great exertion to draw the bucket up, but it descends easily, so beings have to expend great effort to draw themselves upward to a happier life, but easily descend into painful situations. How many of you have ever drawn a bucket up from a well? Yeah? Oh, many of us have. Okay. So when you pull up that bucket of water, it's heavy. And it takes a lot of energy to pull that up. But when you empty the water, and sometimes you don't even get it all the way up because your hands slip on the rope and it goes down without any effort at all. Or even you get it up and take the water off, you just let go, kerplunk. Okay? No energy. But to get it up, great energy. So in cyclic existence, with us beings under the influence of ignorance, we have to exert a tremendous amount of energy to create virtue. Yeah, to really cultivate kindness, to cultivate compassion, to learn, to reflect on the Dharma, to generate wisdom, to have the correct understanding. This takes a lot of energy and time. Yeah. But to mess off and, find entertainment and help our friends and harm our enemies and criticize the people who drive us crazy and do all the things we like. That's so easy, isn't it? Yeah. It's so difficult to control our speech when, and make our speech kind. But to say mean and nasty things, it's so easy. It takes no mindfulness or, at all. Just those horrible words come right out, don't they? Yeah? And especially for parents. Parents have told me that they find themselves saying to their kids the exact things their parents said to them that they vowed never to say to their own children. And then those things are coming right out of the mouth. Is that true, parents?
I'm much more creative. I come up with my own
Oh. Okay. You don't repeat the exact same things as your parents said to you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, yours are meaner. Okay. Not okay. You have beautiful children. Yeah. Although I don't know them since they turned 13. But yeah, no, his kids are great. So, so to come to an upper rebirth, it takes so much energy to create that amount of good karma. We have to keep ethical conduct to get an upper rebirth. We create generosity to have the material wherewithal to live. Yeah, we have to practice fortitude and patience so that we have an attractive body. We have to practice joyous effort so that we can accomplish projects that we set out to, and so on and so on. It takes, to have a really good rebirth, we have to create so many causes and conditions, and it takes effort. Whereas to be reborn in a realm with a lot of suffering, either mental suffering or physical suffering, we just keep doing what we're doing, Or best example of how to get reborn in the lower realm is our president. Seriously, when I think of that person's next rebirth, it's horrifying. Yeah. And yet, we're not immune from that kind of behavior. We like to think we are. Yeah. But given the right situation, we'd probably act similarly. Yeah. Maybe in our own little group. Yeah. Fortunately, we don't have control over the nuclear button. And unfortunately, he does. But, it's the same mind overwhelmed by afflictions. Okay, that creates, the cause for lower rebirth. Then 5, just as a bucket does not determine its own movement, so the factors involved in shaping a person's life are the results of past ignorance, attachment, and grasping. In the present, these same factors are continually creating more problems for our future lives, like waves in the ocean. Okay, so this bucket ceaselessly goes up and down under the control of its operator, and it has no choice. In that very moment, the bucket doesn't say, I feel like going up, like I'm tired of being at the bottom of the pond. It's kind of, the bottom of the well. It's kind of, dark and crowded here. I want to go up. The bucket can't control. Okay. So in the same way, we are not in the present, we do not have so much control of what happens to us now. We have some control, but a lot of what happens to us now is a result of causes we created in the past. Of course, the conditions that we create for ourselves right now will determine whether those seeds we planted in our mind stream in the past ripen or not. Okay, so we may have the seed that will, in our mind stream that could ripen, let's say, as getting in a car accident. But if we really take care with the way we drive and we don't drink and drive, then that prevents the seed, that seed from ripening. So, what we experience now, we can control to some extent by making wise decisions in the present, and acting with kindness, keeping ethical conduct, and so on. However, what this verse is saying, okay, we had the past ignorance, attachment, and grasping that is creating the cause for our present situation. And then in our present situation, we have more ignorance and attachment and grasping that creates the cause for our future situation. Okay? So it's in that way that the bucket doesn't have a lot of say, you know. What we have the say over right now, the control over right now, is the conditions we put ourselves in that will, you know, influence what previous karma ripens, either constructive or destructive karma. And what we have control over now is the causes we create for what we're going to be in the future. But sentient beings tend to be quite ignorant and not realizing that we're creating the cause for what we will be in the future. We grasp onto present happiness and defend the self and attack others in the present instead of training our mind, keeping good ethical conduct, and creating virtuous actions in the present that will ripen in our future happiness. Okay? So we're kind of like people who, first of all, we're ignorant because we don't understand that right now we're creating the cause for what we're going to be in the future. Even though that's what you teach your kids. Yeah, study hard, because then you'll be able to have a good job and you'll be secure in the future. Yeah, you teach your kids, yeah, this is the cause of happiness. Study hard, get a good education. Okay, so we have some understanding of cause and effect, but we don't extend it to the next life. We only think in terms of this life. Yeah, get a good education. That way you'll have money and financial security in this life. But if we think karmically, yeah, a good education is the cooperative condition, but the main cause for wealth is generosity. So if we want to have wealth in a future life, we practice generosity in this life. But you see, because we don't often think of future lives, because we can't see them, then we don't think of creating the happiness for future life. We will save for old age, but we won't save for old age plus 1 day. Yeah? We will save only up until we die. And after that, we don't even think about it. And yet, it's just 1 day later. Why don't we think about it? Yeah. So if we want to be financially stable in future lives, create generosity now. Yeah. But what our ignorance tells us is if you're generous, then you won't have those things. Yeah. So hang on to things yourself, because you're never sure when there's going to be a recession and you won't have anything. Yeah. So save all your stuff right now. You know, forget about generosity. Or so we either have that mind of miserliness, I don't want to create generosity, or we have the mind of, you know, well, when I die, it's all going to disappear, so I want to live it up right now, and then we spend it all right now. But in either way we do, in the super miserly way or the super indulgent way, we're not creating the cause for happiness in future lives. Okay? And this is, again, because of our ignorance, this is another kind of ignorance. It's not the ignorance that grasps at I and mine. This is the ignorance of karma and its effects, that doesn't understand that our actions have an ethical dimension and that we have the power to create the kind of future we want if we are wise and understand how karma and its effects works. Then we can do a lot. But when we don't understand it, then we don't try. And sometimes we understand it, but we're lazy. It's like, well, have you ever had this thing? You don't have an object, okay? And then somebody gives you that object. And you don't have a certain object. You're okay without that object. Then somebody gives you that object and you think it's so wonderful. And then you don't want to give it away. Even though you were perfectly okay with it, with not having it before you had it. But once you have it, yeah, and so we don't want to give it away. Miserliness sets in, even though we were okay before we had it. Yeah, I once gave an assignment to a group. We were talking about the perfection of generosity, to go home and clean out one closet or one dresser, not your whole house, just one, okay? And give away the things that you haven't used in a year. Yeah. It was so hard. People, came back the next week and reported. It was so hard. One person told the story of she was cleaning out a dresser and found a T-shirt that she had bought on a vacation to Mexico years ago, like a decade ago, that she had forgotten that she even had. She didn't even know she had this T-shirt. But as soon as she saw it, she couldn't give it away. Yeah? Even though she didn't even know she had it. Okay? So this is the way attachment and miserliness function. Okay? So sometimes we're ignorant, we don't understand cause and effect. Sometimes we understand it, but we just can't bear to separate with something we like. Yeah. And it's amazing the things we hang on to. Totally amazing. Yeah. Do you find it easy to clean out a closet or a dresser? Okay, then you have that assignment. Go home and clean something out. Give away everything you haven't used in a year. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, what about cleaning up your desk? Hopeless, isn't it? Some people. Anybody at the Abbey who has a difficult time keeping their desk clean? Yeah. Yeah. But it's so hard to, have a tidy desk. Yeah. How many people find it difficult to pick your clothes up from the floor? Yeah. You just take them off and leave them there, right? Okay. I better stop asking questions. How about your nightstand? How many of you have a tidy nightstand?
We just moved.
Oh. Some people's nightstand full of stuff. You know, old Kleenex, the books they were reading, their tablet, you know, countless vitamins and ibuprofen and, you know, all sorts of other things. And then your glasses and your hearing aids and your, you know, everything else, all the things that you leave on your nightstand saying you're going to take care of tomorrow. Yeah. And your nightstand rivals your desk. Okay. Okay, let's go on. I always tell people who ask me, they come to a Buddhist course and they say, I love Buddhism. How can I get my family interested in Buddhism? And I tell them, go home and take out the garbage. So I'm telling you, go home and clean up your desk. You know, pick your clothes up from the floor. Yeah, tidy up your nightstand. Maybe do the dishes. Yeah. Then your family will go, wow, look at this. Yeah, one Buddhist course. Yeah. I was trying to get my son to take out the garbage for 40 years. Didn't succeed. He goes to one Buddhist course. I like Buddhism. Yeah? Okay. So do something that you've never done before at home to help out. And that is a really good way to get your family interested in the Dharma. Go to work and do something kind that helps people that you've never done before. Like clean up your own mess around the coffee machine, or clean up somebody else's mess.
No, don't do that.
Yeah. Just sometimes these small things work wonders. Yeah. Say hello to somebody in your office, in your workplace that you've never said hello to before. I know that sounds radical. Try it. Yeah. Sometimes small things can really shift big things. Okay. Then, 6. Just as the bucket bumps against the walls of the well when it ascends and descends, so sentient beings are battered day by day by the suffering of pain and change, and by being caught in processes beyond their control. So it's not when the bucket goes up and down that it's a smooth ride, you know, that the bucket gets pulled up and it just goes perfectly up, you know, and then when it goes down, it goes very gently down. Rather, when it's getting pulled up, clang, bang, boom, it gets damaged on the way up. Yeah. When it goes down, similarly, it bangs against the side. Yeah, it gets dented, it gets chipped. Yeah. So in the same way, we sentient beings, as we go up and down in samsara, we're battered by 3 kinds of dukkha. Okay, 3 kinds of unsatisfactory situation. The first one is pain. Yeah, it's here in the verse, pain. So this is mental and physical pain that nobody likes. Yeah, and we all have it. The second one is change. In other words, we have something nice and then we lose it. Or we have something nice And then we continue to have it and continue to have it, and then it actually becomes suffering. Okay. You get a hot tub. Yeah, you've been wanting a hot tub for centuries. You get a hot tub. You sit in your hot tub. Oh, feels so good. Now, what happens if you sit in your hot tub for 24 hours straight? Yeah, does it still feel good? No. No. So that shows that actually sitting in a hot tub itself is not the source of happiness. Because if it were, the longer you sat in that hot tub, the happier you would be. But after a while, it's like, get me out of here. Okay? That's the second kind of dukkha. And the third is being caught in processes beyond our control. So that means being caught in being propelled by ignorance, afflictions, and karma. Yeah? Without our wish, without our choice. Okay? So, through this simile, Chandrakirti provides insight into the details of the process driving cyclic existence. Okay, so your meditation tonight, first apply this information about cyclic existence to yourself so that you can understand your own plight and develop a strong intention to transcend this dynamic of recurring problems. Okay, if your mind has not been, okay, so that's your assignment for tonight. Okay, if your mind has not been affected by thinking about the way you yourself wander in an uncontrolled cycle of self-ruin. Uncontrolled cycle of self-ruin. I mean, that's the situation we're in, isn't it? So if you aren't affected by thinking about that, then when you reflect on the process of suffering of other sentient beings, you will not find their suffering so unbearable that you would feel the need to help extricate them from this morass. So without being in touch with our own situation of cyclic existence and completely experiencing it and knowing it for what it is, until we feel that about ourselves, it's how are we going to have compassion for other people who are in that same situation? Yeah. Our compassion won't be very strong if it exists at all. It won't be very steady. It may devolve into pity because we don't realize, we don't feel the extent to which we're in the same boat. Okay? So, tonight and tomorrow morning, really meditate on these 6 in terms of yourself. And then tomorrow, we'll go on to talk about how you meditate on them in terms of others to help you create compassion for other living beings. Okay? So we have a few minutes for questions and maybe answers.
I think you've said this before, but I would need to really hear it again. What can you do when you've been thinking about these things and meditating on them, and then it just really feels so heavy and discouraging because you just really see that the plight you're in and that others are in?
Okay. If you meditate on these things and you're getting discouraged, then you're not meditating correctly. Okay? Because that's a wrong kind of outcome. What you want the outcome to be when you meditate on this in terms of yourself is a very strong renunciation of cyclic existence. And renunciation doesn't mean giving up pleasure and happiness. It means giving up this painful, unsatisfactory situation. So you want to come out with a very strong feeling of, I'm tired of this, and I want to attain liberation. I'm tired of grade F happiness, and I want to work towards grade AAA happiness. Okay? When you have those two, you're tired of where you are and you want to go to something better, your mind is not discouraged. Your mind is hopeful. Your mind is optimistic. Your mind is enthusiastic. Okay? So the trick is we have to be aware of the possibility for change. We see that cyclic existence has its own causes, and we see that abandoning those causes itself brings happiness. And we see that creating the more causes for happiness brings even greater happiness. So that gives us a lot of optimism and enthusiasm. Okay? Okay? So that's very important, to really remember that, it's possible to eliminate the causes of suffering. It's possible to create the causes of happiness. And we just need to learn how to do that and then go about doing it. Yeah. Discouragement from a Buddhist viewpoint is a form of laziness. Yeah. Because when we're discouraged, then I can't do anything, I don't do anything, so I'm just going to lie around and, enjoy myself, feeling miserable. But I have no responsibility. There's no hope. So I'll enjoy my misery.
What was your last statement, please? Oh, I know.
About laziness.
When I get discouraged, when I am praying for all sentient beings, the way that I pull myself out of it is knowing that if I'm learning how to do it, someone else is learning how to do it, and so on and so on and so on, so that eventually we will all be doing it.
Yep. That's a good way to think.
I want to come back to what I talked this morning about the experience this morning I had about so I thought more about it, and what it is like, that attachment is like, I was here first. I was quiet. It was quiet here. Now the living room become my living room. The kitchen become my kitchen. And you're disturbing my peace. This is the law of rule right now because I'm here first. That's what is going on behind. Like,
Yeah.
wow. And that's what is so painful when you can't name that stuff. But that's what is going on behind.
Yeah. But when you name it and you look at it, it makes you laugh, doesn't it? Because it's such a crazy way of thinking.
But this morning, my mind didn't went there. I was in peace all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't went, but I said, why sometimes that's not what it is? Then I start thinking, oh yeah, I was here for me. Yeah.
Painful. Very painful thinking about me all the time.